Welcome to the Halloween edition of the Crystal Ball Hour with me, your host. If you're watching, you may notice that I'm looking a little more witchy and metaphysical and mystical today. And I guess I want to say this is probably my real self. It just takes a while for this part of me to come out. Hard to look like this when one is kayaking down a river, but when I'm close to All Hallows Eve, when the veil between worlds is thin, this is the part of me that comes out. Welcome to the show. If you're new and you don't know who I am, I masquerade as sometimes Dr. Elisa on the Dr. Elisa Show. It's that PhD in psych. And sometimes as the mystic psychic channeler on the Crystal Ball Hour. And this is the special edition about ghost stories, about things that go bump in the night, and how those things are actually real, some of the time. Welcome, I'm so glad you're here. Couple quick announcements. You know I have a great sponsor, veteranspride.org. Not going to say much about them today, but check them out, veteranspride.org. They're amazing. And I also sponsor myself, and you can check out my site at elisarobin.com. I actually have a Halloween special going for those of you who could just use a little bit of help in this confusing time. A half an hour reading with me using my channeling skills and probably my crystal balls, but maybe a tarot card or two. Just depends how we're doing and what you need. And you can find me at elisarobin.com. So look me up. You will enjoy it. Today, oh yeah, I think I told you that I finished my second novel, which is full of vampires, at least one or two, just in case you want to know. But you can also get The Way of the Well. Think about those other holidays coming up soon, you know, where you buy presents for people, and you could buy a reading with me for someone, or you could buy my book, The Way of the Well, a spiritual romance with a bit of romance, bit of adventure, and a lot of spiritual journeys in it, just for fun. Okay, so thank you for tuning in. I have some technology to try to deal with today because I have a couple amazing guests that will be on. Before I do that, I want to again let you know that part of this show always is about you opening up your mind, opening up and having a sense that there's more in the world than we can touch, perhaps. That there are things beyond our senses that are real and exist. And it is opening to those that makes life even richer and more interesting. And of course, more mysterious. So I'll be sharing some of my personal ghost stories, have a couple great guests. And if you would like to share some of your stories, guess what? You can. I'm not sure what you're pointing at. Oh, that he's here? Okay. All right, I'm gonna, okay. Like I said, I have a bit of technology going on today.
Use your mouth.
Okay.
Enlarge it up there at the top. In the middle.
Okay, let me work on this. Okay, I'm sorry everybody, I've got technology issues going on right at the moment. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have two guests. I'm going to plug one in on the phone right now. Hold on. Hey Brooke, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Brooke, can you hear me?
She's got my name up on the screen.
Hello?
Because she let me on Zoom.
Okay, Brian, I know you're on Zoom. Brian, can you hang on? Can you hear me, Brian? Okay, I have too much technology going on. Okay, let me see if I can try this.
There you go.
Hey, Brian, can you hear me?
Yeah, how about your Zoom?
What am I doing? Go with him first?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go back here and hold on. Can you hear me, Brian? I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm having a few technology weirdnesses today as I'm trying to do this. So thank you for joining me today on the show. Quick introduction, and we probably have about 20 minutes of your time would be grand if that works for you. So,
Not a problem.
Brian is a paranormal researcher, and what I love about having him on the show is that so much about paranormal research is people wanting there to be ghosts. And what I loved, Brian, when we talked, was you letting me know that you like that if there's something to bunk, you debunk it, and if there's something out there that might be real, you let that come through, right? I mean, you can also demonstrate when things are real. Story about yourself and about how you got into doing this?
Strangely enough, yes. Basically, the reason I got this is when I was growing up, my mother was a huge horror movie fan, and she had somebody to watch horror movies with, so I got volunteered. Unfortunately, I was really young at the time, so she had to start explaining to me how what I was seeing in the movies wasn't how it was just Hollywood. And the two things has happened. As you can tell what's going in the background here. I'm a huge horror movie buff at this point. But then I start seeing movies that said based on actual events, based on a real story. And that kind of contradicted what I'd been told growing up, so I wanted to start looking into it. So I kind of played around with it a little bit, trying to figure out what was going on. But then in the late 90s, I decided that I really wanted to dive into it. So officially in 1999, Rocky Mountain Paranormal was started up. And we've been going up since, trying to figure out that's behind the claims, what might be on, and maybe help educate some people and feel a little bit safer as we go.
Okay, I'm getting a little bit of reverb from your speakers, so I don't know if you want to just check your side there. That your Mercury is retrograde, everybody, if you're watching and if you understand anything about astrology, so not surprising. So
Here, let's try that.
Lovely, thank you. So from your background, I can tell horror movies are a thing, right? I mean, like, that's definitely something that you've sort of gotten on as part of your persona, because I love everything in back of you on here now.
But like I say, that's become kind of a big thing because I'm so interested in it. Started with horror movies, and it worked its way into what are the facts behind these paradigms that people have. So moving forward, it's kind of mixed itself together, and I'm a huge fan of all of it. And not only trying people and understand what's going on, being able to get involved with it myself because I'm so intrigued with what's happening.
Right.
So
talk to me a little bit about like what does it take to be a paranormal researcher, right? Like so many people just want to go into a place and say, I think there's a ghost here, but there's so much more to it.
Right, and the thing is what are the skills? Whatever you can bring to people. We have had people that we've called on in every imaginable field. We've had medical doctors, psychologists, physicists, I mean, worked with geologists in certain cases to figure things out. My background kind of is photography, a little bit of electronics, and as time going on, I've been educating myself more and more in different things. But it seems to be that any field can be brought in the field of the research, as you apply it properly. And the one thing that I would tell people to avoid is don't go to a course that certifies you as a ghost hunter. You're giving your money away. Figure out, what equipment it is that you learn how to use, and go take a course for whatever that equipment was originally designed to do. Take a photography course, take a video editing course, take an audio engineering course, that sort of thing, just so you understand how the equipment worked and what it was designed to do.
Okay. What kind of equipment do you use? I mean, I've watched some of these shows. I've watched Ghost Hunters and Ghost Nation, and I'm just kind of curious. So what is the equipment that you think is actually, helpful and viable?
Well, there are a few things. Generally, what we say is we cover as much of the electromagnetic spectrum as possible. So we cover, we still digital cameras, quality. Once again, we understand how to use them. Video cameras, and with video camera, we do use infrared, but not to see ghosts. But we made infrared cameras to see in conditions where a regular camera couldn't record because it was too dark.
Okay.
We also use thermometers. We use seismometer measuring vibration. It just depends on what we're looking for. Sometimes, like I said, we go to the extremes, bring in different that you wouldn't even think were related to the paranormal thing.
So, most of the time do you find paranormal activity? Would you say, or people love to be scared, and we love to think that we're being in haunted places. I think. What percentage do you think is real, and what percentage is, I don't know, things that you can debunk, things that are natural?
Well, there are levels to that. Can it be debunked? Generally, I'd say debunking thing involves somebody hoaxing, which is a very it's a rare thing.
Okay.
Then you run into people that are misunderstanding what's happening. And the more and more that the paranormal becomes popular, the media really likes to, here's a ghost, and people are watching it, and taking as, absolute proof of ghosts. So they start seeing similar things happening in lives, and they jump to the conclusion. So it's not that we're really debunking it at that point. We're just kind of explaining to this is what it actually is. And by doing that, one of the first things I ask people all the time is, how much paranormal television do you watch? And generally, it's a lot. And I'll tell them, stop watching it. That's the number one thing, because it's really starting to affect you. Even if there is something going on, that's the last thing you need to do is get more ramped up by why I watch types of shows. And the very light cases, I've been doing this for going into 2 years now, is the occasional something that we haven't been able to explain. And like I say, that's rare. When it does happen, the goal for us is to keep investigating it until we can come up with some sort of a conclusion, where most people automatically jump to, I don't know what it was, therefore it's ghost, or I don't know what it is, and ghosts don't exist, therefore it's something else. We just like to be able to stop and go, okay, we don't know what it is, and we're going to keep looking. And that's generally where our unexplained as of yet cases to go. Because the absolute obsession people have with paranormal media, bulk of the cases is people just misunderstanding things happening to them. And, it's not their fault. And, one of the big things that we really push is critical thinking. And unfortunately, that's the first thing to lose when you think that something spooky is going on. You automatically jump to a conclusion without any evidence.
That is such a good point. I think that, and in some level, I think that's what makes it fun, is like I don't have to think about it. I can tell myself I saw something spooky. But you're right, there is this gap between I've been afraid of something frightened me, and now my critical thinking is gone, and now I have no way to analyze what happened except by just assuming that it's something scary. So I think it's
one of the things that we people to do a lot is when they contact us, things are happening all the time. It's just nonstop, and I'll say, okay, before we come out and talk, what I'd like you to do is start a diary. Even go back and record things that you can remember, and let's see if there's any kind of pattern to this. And not only does it give us the opportunity, if there is possibly a pattern, because if we go out, the odds of something happening while we're there for this short period of time are pretty slim, so we won't be able to increase the possibility of us witnessing something. But at the same time, when you think that something's happening to you, it seems like it's happened a lot more than it actually is. So people look at it and go, oh, well, I thought it was happening every 10 minutes, and it's only once a month, or once a week.
That is a great point. It's the psychology of that we notice the things, like if we think about it, we're very challenged at remembering how often something happened or how regularly it happens. Because if we continually think about it, it seems like it happens more. And we notice the things that we think about. We notice the things that we want to have happen. And so there's all of that psychology behind it. And the fact that when we're a little scared, that we are in a sort of high anticipation and excitement stage. So I think all of those things make any kind of ghostly or spiritual encounter feel more impactful. Have you had times, though, where you personally have had things that you couldn't explain? You're like, okay, it's got to be metaphysical because I don't know what this is?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've had, I'll talk about a couple of cases we've had. We had one private investigation that the family was staying in one bedroom in the house, which reason it was the most haunted according to them. Why they chose that one, we'll never know. But there were several generations of family staying in one room for sleeping. And through the night, rotating people through the room to let them sleep, just to kind of monitor the situation. And at one point, the family said, well, the couple that was in at the time said, we'll go ahead and we'll sleep in that. We're not going in without. And I said, well, what do you think I'm going to be able to do? Big green thing jumps out it. I'm probably going to run out with you. But to reassure them, I went in and they got a bed and sat at the foot of the bed. And this was one of those rare situations where we turned the lights out because that's what the situation was like when they were asleep. So we had several infrared cameras in the room, and at one point it felt like something was almost slapping my face. That's the only way I kind of get my attention.
Wow.
And the video is just me looking around like a complete moron saying, I hope you guys are seeing something because it feels like something's slapping. So, in retrospect, just as much of a likelihood that I had spent roughly about 36 hours of no sleep at that point. And I had spent several hours listening to the ghost stories being told about that room for multiple family members. So I really wasn't in the condition to think rationally while I was locked in there in the dark. So there's the possibility that it was just my mind playing with me. Can I prove that? I can't prove that any more than it was something in their slap. And that's why we need looking at this sort of thing, see if we can replicate it so we can test when something like that happens, what's actually going on. Unfortunately, with most of this stuff, in the real science world, in order to study something, to be able to replicate it, produce it, just over and over, where with ghost events, this is a thing that somebody had happened to them once, or it's to them every once in a while, and it's unpredictable. So being able to bring the scientific method into it is really difficult, but that's what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. And we've had other cases that we were at a building that was supposedly, it was an old church, and they had all sorts of ghostly stories about, seeing priests and nuns and all this sort of stuff. Right. Me and one of the other investigators were taking a break in the little break room in this business, and right behind me, like if you were watching me here, there was a hall. The other investigator could see down the hall. Obviously, I wasn't facing it. Right. And all of a sudden, he says, I just saw somebody walk across the hall into the women's, but there was nobody there that matched the description. It was modern dress that he described. It was just, it looked like one of maybe the employees had come back. So he describes her completely, explains what she's wearing, how tall she was, what color her hair was. We went and checked. There was nobody in the restroom, and we pulled back the video. There's nobody there. So he had seen something that even the video camera wasn't recording. But then again, we have to ask the other questions of what it is that, other possibilities. Could have been, something psychological, been influenced by something that was happening in the building as far as just natural conditions that made it have that perception. There's so many different things, and that wasn't even one of the stories that had been reported to people that worked there. So completely out of the blue.
Right. So it's interesting, because I think sometimes we do have to. Yes, we have to weigh the psychology of an experience and use our critical thinking, and yet I know that I've had experiences myself that I cannot prove, and yet I know they happened. So I know
well, that's. I tell people or talk to people about that all the time, because they immediately go, well, you've seen bunk things. How can you explain this? And me a ghost story from 10 years ago.
Right.
And the answer, it has parts. Number one, no, I wasn't there. I can't tell you what it was. And if for some reason it wasn't terrifying to you, how cool is it that you have this experience that most people, real or not, being a personal experience, we can't prove that it's real, we can't prove that it's not real.
Right.
So, enjoy the fact that you had this experience that nobody else gets to have. And a lot of people would really love to have these experiences, and they don't too.
Right.
So
I think that's a great point, right? It's like embrace the experience. So I think I mentioned to you when we spoke before, that after my husband died, it was probably just a couple weeks later, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, I got a text message. I was in my car, and in my car, my phone connects to the car Bluetooth. And I saw that I got a text message, and I saw it on the screen in my car, and it was from my dead husband, whose phone was turned off and disconnected. I had already done that. There was no way that somebody could accidentally have texted me from that number. But when I pulled over to pick up my phone and look at it on my phone, it wasn't there. And yet I know I saw it, right? Because I almost like had I was like, oh my God, that text message is from Rick, and then I had to pull over. So I can't prove it, but I know it happened.
Exactly, and that's the thing is, while I can't prove a personal experience, it's real person, even if it wasn't real. And I have time explaining that to people. One of the things that we've dealt with a lot is sleep paralysis, which is a provable type thing. And when I tell somebody it sounds like you had that, because such a personal experience, when you have something like that happen to you, you can't easily convince somebody it wasn't real. Personal experiences are a very powerful thing, and even though we realize that human memory and the way that we perceive things is not good as we initially thought it was, that's all we have to go by. So when you think something's happening, that's the only method you have. So regardless if it's something's real or not, as you perceive it to be real, it is. And there's a lot of cases of things that people have been convinced that something has happened when we know for a fact that it hasn't. So the ability to confuse people or to convince people that things are happening is really a pointer towards how powerful that belief is.
Right. So I really love that message, because I do think that sometimes we want to see things, to believe that there is life after death, and that people who have passed are still in contact or aware of us in some way, shape, or form. And so what you're saying is honor what's real, and to you, honor that and respect that, and then realize that it may not be something that can be picked up scientifically or proven scientifically, and both those things can be true at the same time.
Exactly, and I mean, it's really for people on both the absolute over-the-top believer and the absolute, just doesn't believe in anything crowds who say it's okay to just say I don't know what it's.
Right.
And if it's something that feel real to you, and I always tell people, if it's something that didn't terrify you, that's okay. Run with it. It's probably good for you to be able to process, think about what was it, what would it have been, and a lot of people, that's something special to them.
Right.
So it's a really interesting method of dealing with that personal experience.
Awesome. So how do people get in touch with you if they want, because you offer, talk about what you offer. I know you have workshops or you give talks, and then will you go to places and you're located in Colorado. Will you go to places in Colorado if people are having experiences?
Well, right now, no.
COVID,
there
no,
are
not
a lot
now.
It's amazing. There's so many people still contacting me saying, what events are you holding that we can go to this month? And I have to reply and say, I don't want to die, so we're postponing that for a while.
Right.
But generally, we have the paranormal investigation side of things. And so if people are having some sort of an experience or their business is having something happening, we work with them, go in and see what we can find out. We're heavy into the history, so especially if it's a historic building or something that we dive deep into what's going on at the location in the past as well, and work with them to figure out what might be causing these events. Also, like you were saying, we have a lot of speaking, libraries, colleges, private events, and our talks can range from ghost hunting 101. We're really interested in it. We can sit down over a day or so and introduce people into what the reality is behind the whole paranormal research field, as opposed to what you see on television.
Right.
And then we have pretty much entertainment talks that are our investigations, places that visited, the stories behind the locations, and what we found during investigations. And all of that can be found at Rocky Mountain Paranormal and all of our contact information is there too.
So Rocky Mountain Paranormal, right? If people, that's how I found it. If you just Google Rocky Mountain Paranormal, and I can say the website's really interesting. There's some great stuff on it, and great opportunity to join perhaps in some online events. So listen, thank you for joining me. I know I asked for about a half an hour of your time, so thank you very much. And I have a feeling we will chat again at some point as things go on. So
sounds great.
So thank you. I appreciate it. You have a spooky rest of your day. Okay.
You too.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Talk to you.
Okay, everyone, just hang in there with me for a minute. Mercury is retrograde and the technology is just a bit interesting today. I do have another guest I want to bring on, and let me see if I can get that technology to work. And so hold on there. I am going to be using my phone on this one, and let's see if this works. Stay tuned.
Hello.
Hi, Brooke, is that you? Can you hear me? This is Elisa.
Hello.
Okay, I'm having technical difficulties here. I'm plugged in. Can you hear me? Okay. Clearly having technical difficulties with the phone line. Sorry about that. If you're listening, thank you so much for working with me and staying tuned. Okay. Hold on.
I heard him.
Let me try again.
I heard him.
Hi, are you there? Oh my God, you can hear me? And okay, and I'm just going to adjust. Hold on.
Inside the studio.
Huh?
Turn it on inside the studio.
Oh, inside the studio. Ooh, this one?
Yes.
Okay, hang in there. Right there? Okay, are we good? I still need this?
I'm good.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, no problem at all.
I'm
Sometimes the spirits work in mysterious ways.
I think
For the technical stuff.
I think that's what's happening today. And I have to say that, so one, I appreciate it, and two, Mercury is retrograde, and since it's retrograde, all the technology around me is just fascinating. So, okay, so if you're listening out there, thank you for sticking with me. You are listening to the Crystal Ball Hour special, Halloween special, and we were just talking to a paranormal researcher, and now we're going to talk with somebody who gives these really amazing tours in Denver. Well, when it's not COVID, but I want to talk with him about, we'll ask him in a minute, just about his experiences. And if you've just tuned in, remember you're listening to KUHS Denver, the stream. And if you're watching, you can notice that every few minutes we're adjusting technology. Okay, so Brooke, thank you for joining me. Tell me about how you got into doing these tours. Let's start there.
It was actually kind of, and first of all, thank you for having me on, Elise. I really do appreciate the opportunity. It was kind of a case. I worked in radio in Charleston, South Carolina for years. And a lot of times when you work in radio, you get fired and you start to look for other jobs in between radio gigs. And I just happened to look up and found in a one ad ghost storytelling. And I said, wait a minute, I thought radio was the easiest job in the world. You're telling me I could tell ghost stories for a living? I'd never heard of such a thing.
Wow.
And so I actually went and talked to the company, and it was one of the first ghost tours in the country. It was Tour Charleston was the name of the company. And Julian Buxton, who wrote the book that goes to Charleston and started doing walking tours in the late 70s, early 80s, was the owner of this company. And I worked with him for about a year and learned kind of the ins and outs of how to put on a good ghost tour. And I moved to Denver years later This was in the mid-2000s. I moved to Denver years later and saw there was an opportunity to start a ghost tour. There wasn't very many here operating in the area, and put one together and just had an amazing time for several years operating that tour. It was lower downtown Denver. We were going through Union Station, Oxford Hotel, we had a bookstore, Warren French restaurant, Multistreaming Brewing Company, and we had full access to these buildings. We were going in the basement, going to the tunnel entrances and tunnels that run in Denver and all throughout the city. And it was a very unique tour with the access that we got to go inside these buildings. And it really kind of opened people up, kind of took them out of their elements a little bit. And I never tried to scare anybody on the tour, but I definitely presented the information in a very realistic manner. And a lot of people kind of open up their minds to things that are around them, or open up their eyes to things that are around them that they normally wouldn't pay attention to. And we had a lot of personal experiences happen on the tour, which is something I never, planned on. I just wanted to put on an entertaining, historical, ghost storytelling tour. And as an added bonus, the lower downtown spirits just seems to really get involved on a lot of the tours that we're doing.
So that, I just have to say that's fascinating, because people often get involved. So the guest I had on before was like trying to debunk, and he got into it because of horror movies. So many people get into it because of the experiences they've had. You got into it and then had experiences. It was like the other way around.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I've always been interested in paranormal conspiracies, the kind of the fringe type of thinking out there. And I've had experiences when I was a kid growing up. And I've always been drawn and interested in looking into this, into this world. And so, I mean, I felt I had a decent enough background to, legitimately be able to offer not only my personal experiences, but, the material in a good manner. And once the experiences started happening, I just said, wow, this is turning into something really special. Because a lot of the experiences, people were seeing things, people were being touched by things, people were hearing voices. And it would happen to people, like I would have groups between 20 and 30 different people, at times on the tour. And out of that group, 3 or 4 people would have their own unique experiences. It wasn't, a lot of times it wasn't like, we did have a couple like noises we heard as a group, things like that.
Right.
But most of these experiences are very personal to people. And a lot of them actually, a couple of them actually, I think really help some people emotionally. I think Hollywood does a lot to really make everybody afraid of the paranormal world and what might be moving around us that we don't see in the humps in the night. But if you take your own personal fear away from a lot of this is just things reaching out and wanting to make contact, looking for a little feeling of being known again in an unknown world. And probably one of the most personal experiences I think happened. There was a gentleman that was visiting Denver for Comic-Con a couple years ago. And there was a point in the tour in the basement of the Multistreaming Brewing Company that there's a lot of activity in the Multistreaming Brewing Company's basement. It used to connect with the tunnel from Union Station, and at times throughout history, there's been times when soldiers' bodies have been stored in there because of their stories. And there's a lot of heavy energy and that was just left over in that space. And when I would take these groups down, a lot of times that energy would kind of, show itself. And there was a gentleman visiting for Comic-Con, and he was a real big guy. And, kind of, old tough big guy. And I'm giving people kind of a moment to, kind of, investigate on their own, go around taking pictures of the brewery and things like that. And I looked over, and this gentleman was staring at this wall where the fireplace was, and he had tears coming down his face.
Wow.
And I couldn't believe this big guy was crying. And so I walked over to him, and I said, "You doing okay?" He's like, "Yeah, no, it's crazy. I just heard my name whispered in my ear." And I'm like, well, I was like, I know that can be emotional, but it's also kind of cool. A lot of people really try to have these experiences and never do. You just had a really cool experience.
Right.
You upset about it. And he's like, no. It's like, it was my nickname that my parents called me when I was a kid, and I haven't heard it for the past 20 years. And then I started talking to him more, and it turned out that his mother had passed away, I think it's like a year before he'd taken the tour. And he kind of felt like, as he talked more, that his mother's energy it's still with him and still around him. And because she knew he was kind of in this open mind to, the stuff, she reached out at that moment to say, hey, I'm still here. I'm still looking out for you. I'm always with you. And he really kind of, I almost felt like a closure come over him and a moment of peace after we talked more about it because it was such a, personal, such an experience.
Wow.
And there's nothing you can do on a tour to prepare for anything like that or plan for something like that. That's just, something amazing that just came out of a really cool event that we were doing.
So it's a fascinating story, because I do believe when we are just allowing ourselves to be just slightly open, and perhaps when we're also just a little nervous or scared, so we're on high alert emotionally, that we're more open to what's around us. And like you said, sometimes spirits just want to talk to us. They want us to know that they're there. And that's a fascinating moment. Wow. And then have you seen, so you went in as a sort of not believer, not non-believer, right? You just start telling ghost stories.
I'm definitely a believer, but I'm also, I'm a believer that the spirits do what they want to do when they want to do it. And so I had no intention or no, idea that these personal experiences would start happening. And at first, the first few months that it happened, I wouldn't mention it because I was like, oh, this is a fluke. I don't want people starting to think, that, they're going to. Because a lot of times when people take ghost tours, they expect to see something. They expect to feel something.
Right.
They think because of the ghost tour they're going to have an experience.
Right. Yeah.
That's just not the case. A good ghost tour is going to be about 50% history facts and about 50%, paranormal stories. Because the history, lends into this. As long as your history is credible, if you're giving, historical facts in a presentable manner, that lends credibility to the other stuff that they can't fact check. And so the history and the ghost stories always go hand in hand if they're done well. It really can provide a, kind of a unnerving feeling is what I would talk about, or maybe a few chills are here, but we never promised that you would see anything. But then it started happening so much, and we started getting all these really, we started getting faces in pictures, we started capturing entities in pictures, we started capturing orbs throughout the buildings, and I started getting all these different pictures, videos, and personal testimonies from all walks of life. That was what's really cool too. It wasn't just like, a specific type of person having experiences. Young people, old people, black, white, poor, rich. I mean, it didn't matter. These people were starting to have experiences over the first couple of years. So eventually I started sharing a lot of the information on my Facebook and Twitter and things like that for the Dark Side of Ever Go To. And it just kind of developed into a thing of its own. And I remember talking about like non-believers and believers. There was twice that I had two skeptics on the tour, because a lot of people would take the tour, just with their friends or family, not be a believer in ghosts or anything like that. Some people would take it just for the historical facts and to see the old buildings and the architecture. And then there was some that would just be just skeptics, and they would believe it, they would scoff at the stories, they would laugh at it, and chuckle with their friends as you told them. And but in these two different times, I had skeptics have the same type of experience. And if you're dealing with basically get into gentleman, as I was telling the story, all of a sudden I noticed, and he'd been basically making fun of the tour the whole way through. This was the last half hour of the tour. And he sat down listening to my story, but I noticed he's looking behind me, and he's looking really weird in his face, like he's seeing something. And then he nudges his buddy and looks over his buddy and says, hey, what's that? He points at the wall. And then he turns back and looks, and all of a sudden he gets mad. What is going on with this guy? And so at the end of the tour, I go up and talk to him like, I'm like, man, sir, I know you don't believe in this stuff, but I hope I didn't offend you with my stories. I know there's something happened there a few minutes ago, but I don't want to talk about it. And then his friend goes, you saw something. And I said, what do you mean you saw something? And then finally he chimes in and goes, while you were telling that story, I swear I saw a guy wearing an all-white suit, leaning on the wall, looking at you.
Wow.
And he said, then when I turned and nudged my buddy to say, hey, who's that over there? It was gone. And I so think that this basically shattered his belief system, or disbelief system, I guess I should say. But he's probably still mad about it to this day. But what was crazy was about a year later, in the same spot, another woman who was skeptical. She wasn't as boisterous as her skepticism, but she comes up to me at the end of the tour, and she's like, "I want you to know, I just saw something very strange. I saw a gentleman wearing an all-white suit walk behind some pallets over there in the basement, and I walked over to see who it was, and he was gone."
Wow.
So that two skeptics within a year in the same place saw the same apparition.
Wow. And they had no way to communicate with each other. This was just, right, two people, two different times. That's an amazing story. So
yeah, I mean, in the year separation, I have no idea if there's possibly they could have known each other and it was a ruse told on me or something to that effect. But when I talk to people, a lot of the stories I would tell them the ghost story or the ghost tour came from me going downtown, talking to the staff of the building, talking to the manager of the building. A couple times we would have sit down with some of the owners, and I would try to find out their own personal experiences. And you would find people that would, you could tell they wanted to yuck it up a little bit and give you some stories because, that doesn't sound too believable. But the stories that I would eventually include in the tour and that I believed in, when people would tell me these stories or have these experiences, I would see tears well up in their eyes as we recounted the moments that they went through.
wow.
You would see the hair on their arms, the goosebumps, and the goosebumps would pop up on the arms as they talked about the things they saw and felt. And so if I felt a personal connection, I could really feel that they had emotional investment in the story they were telling me, that's when I would, that's when I would take it to heart and say, oh, this is something I need to look into, this is something I need to, investigate more and eventually put it into the tour.
Wow. So let me just because I'm cognizant of your time and my time, so I know that right now because of COVID, you're not doing tours, but you're doing something really exciting. Can you just talk about that briefly, about how you're creating sort of a do-it-yourself tour?
Yeah, of course, it's been kind of a hard pill to swallow. I mean, we were sold out every weekend for about 3 years straight, and then March 16th hit, and we've been shut down ever since.
Right.
It's not the opportune time for these tours to happen. And so what I've been working on is I'm looking to put together a self-guided tour. Where basically you'll have an app that you can download onto your phone, and you'll be able to go to certain places throughout lower downtown Denver, Cheatham Park, Capitol Hill area, and it'll pop up on your phone, story being told, there will be music, a little sound effects, there will be pictures of every place, and possibly even some video involved at a later stage. But it would be your own self-guided tour to lead people out, socially distanced, stay away from people on your own pace in your own time, but still be able to learn some of the history of haunted Denver because I think history, and when history starts to fade away, the haunts start to fade away, or at least acknowledgement of them.
Oh, that's interesting. Like when we're no longer aware that there can be energy or spirits there, they might fade away. That's an interesting notion. And so people.
I know you only have that. I just
Yeah.
want to tell you real quick. I mean,
What?
on that unique station,
Right.
Because of everything, the first couple months after March, they were pretty much empty.
Right.
Except for the security and a few of the staff that held on to positions during that part of the lockdown. And there was quite a uptick of paranormal activity that happened throughout the building. I talked to several of the security about their experiences, and they were hearing screams throughout the building at night, glasses flying off bars, viewing security tapes being forced, coming out of the floor, going over to the glasses and knocking the glasses off the table. They have this on video.
Wow.
Just tons of experiences because there's been so much energy of people going in and out of that building forever.
Right.
That as soon as that went away, all the things that spirits were alone again. And they were screaming out for attention in that building for several months.
Wow. That is amazing. So tell people how they can get in touch with you, because they're going to want to. Go ahead.
Just darkside@denver.com has our phone number and email on there, and everybody can always contact us. We hope to at some point at least be getting out for private tours again. We want to try to do things for Halloween, but there's more restrictions and more things going on, so it's just not the time to get back out there. But we love to hear from people, and they can always buy t-shirts at darksideofdenver.com or gift cards for future tours, and that's really hoping to get through this downtime right now to be able to make it through and hopefully get back to doing the tours.
That is awesome. So listen, Rick, thank you for your time, and I have a feeling you and I will be chatting again, and that maybe once you...
I really appreciate your demeanor, Lisa, and I think you have a good heart and a good passion.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And what I'd love to do is when you get your app up, let's have you back on, okay? So you can talk about the app, and we can see if we can get some people excited about supporting your business, and because ghost hunting doesn't just happen at Halloween. It doesn't just happen at Halloween, so.
Oh no, that was great. I mean, that was one thing I learned a lot. I mean, this happens sometimes on daytime tours in the middle of the summer. I mean, it doesn't matter when. It doesn't just have to be in the middle of the night on a holiday night to get, some sort of activity.
So awesome. So thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll chat again soon, okay?
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Bye. All right, so today, as I play with technology again here, there we go, we did something kind of fun here, right? We did somebody who sort of debunks, and then somebody who went out just to tell stories and found real spirits. We're going to go, this show usually ends a little before the full hour, but I'm going to take 8 full more minutes because I also want to talk to you about the experiences I've had and the experiences that you might have. If you've been listening, and again, it's towards the end of the show, KUHS Denver, the stream, and the Crystal Ball Halloween special. But I want you to know that our loved ones do reach back for us, and sometimes they reach back to let us know that they're okay, and sometimes they reach back to let us know that we are karmically complete. You heard the quick story I told just a bit ago about after my husband passed away, and I received a text message from him. I can't prove it. It never showed up on my phone, but it definitely showed up in the car and in the on the screen, and I could see it. For several weeks, I would smell cigarette smoke in my house. He was a smoker, and I finally had to encourage him to move on. But there were times when I would be somewhere and get home late and smell the smoke as if somebody had been waiting for me. I also grew up in a house with a ghost, and my bedroom was haunted. And my best story about the haunted bedroom was a birthday party I had when I was probably, preteen, somewhere in there. And a number of the girls at the slumber party decided to have a seance in my bedroom. I stayed out in the main part of the house with the few girls who weren't comfortable with it. And we were sitting there talking, and we suddenly heard these screams go off in my bedroom. And the door flew open, and this thundering horde of young women just pounding down the hall, talking at once. And evidently, right when they had said, "Spirit, give us a sign," all of the window shades went up in my bedroom. The bedroom, when I was young, things would go missing. And I would say, "Ghost, I need this," and I would leave the room and come back, and whatever it was I had lost would be sitting in the middle of my desk. I also had times when somebody would go in my room when I'd ask them not to. My brother would go in there for some reason, and I'd say, "Don't go in there right now." And he'd come out. One time we heard a crash when he was in there, and he came out looking kind of shaken and said the mirror had fallen off the back of my door. Now, you might think it's possible that he wanted to knock it off, but trust me, he never wanted to believe there was a ghost in that bedroom. Or that perhaps I had other talents. Most of us have those talents. Most of us have This connection to spirit, we just don't open it up. You heard my first guest talk about if it's true to you, if it's real to you, then it's real. You heard the second guest talk about being open and that the spirits do want to communicate, but that we become so frightened because of Hollywood, because ghosts look scary. And scary sells. It's just about Halloween. I realize it's COVID and we're not probably going to haunted houses. But think about how we love to be frightened, especially things like a roller coaster or a haunted house. We know, our brain knows that we're not in danger, and yet we get that rush, that excitement, that anticipation, that jolt that is electricity running through us because we're scared, but our brain knows we're safe. That is something we adore and we chase and we treasure. When we're in that space, often we're a little more open. And yet, talking to spirit does not have to be frightening. As you all know, I have come out as a channeler on international radio. I'm using those skills, and it doesn't matter if I'm doing an astrological chart or pulling a tarot card or playing with my favorite black crystal ball that I brought with me today. I'm channeling. And there's nothing frightening about it. In fact, I have to say it's rather sensual. It feels like all of me, all of my senses are involved. And I love that process and that feeling. And so, as I said, if you go to my website, you can. I've got packages, but what's not on my website, and you'll have to contact me and tell me you heard it here, is I have a special for Halloween. Because it's quite possible your spirit guides want to talk to you. People from your past want to talk to you. Perhaps the animals from your past want to reach out and give you a message. And so you can find me at elisorobin.com and know that that energy is something that I can help you experience as we experience it together, as I do a reading for you. The Crystal Ball Hour will be back in November, and as I said, spookiness doesn't happen just at Halloween and All Hallows, because winter, the veil between the worlds is very thin. And that's when the spirits reach to us and we can reach back. So what I'm hoping is that next month on the Crystal Ball Hour, not sure the date, I'll have to let you know, that you will tune in and you will text me or put a message in the Facebook site and ask for a reading and let me read for you. And I think I'll bring my kind of witchy self, my kind of mysterious self, my kind of mystical self with me for all of those radio shows. Because you know what? There's so much in this world that we are afraid of and stressed out about. But the spirit world is simply something we can sink into and find a sense of passion and love and sensuality and a wonder and leave our fears behind. So I hope you enjoyed this special, a Halloween Crystal Ball special. And then you will join me next week on Thursday for the Dr. Lisa Show. We're going to start talking about the Phoenix Rising. Rising as the Phoenix from 2020. And today, what I want to leave you with is just one thought. That as you walk out into the world, wondering about the things that go bump in the night, I want to reassure you that such things, like ghosts and spirits, do exist. Have a wonderful Halloween. I will see you soon.